Hey everybody, welcome back to Better Computer. My name is Matt, and I'm an iPhone guy, right? I like the iPhone, the hardware-software combination, the third-party app library. It just works with me. It's what I personally want from my device. However, there are some very good Android phones out there, and I've been testing out the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra for the past almost a month at this point, and I wanted to share some of the things that, as an iPhone user, some things that resonated with me using this particular phone. Some of them are Android features, some of them are just like specific to this device, but I wanted to share those real quick with you, and then at the end, I'll give you some of my feelings on kind of where we are with these devices and what I'm going to be using going forward. But let's get to the good stuff right away. Let's rapid fire through the things I like about the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Okay, so bar none, my favorite thing about this phone is the anti-reflective display. It's not a matte display. It's not a nano texture display like Apple has on their MacBooks and iPad Pros. It is something baked into kind of how they create the glass composite that goes into the screen, and it just disperses light in a way that, especially when you're outdoors, there's less reflections on the screen, and I'll try to capture it on camera here, but you just have to take my word for it. It is pretty striking in real life when you're used to displays having a certain amount of reflectivity on them, and this just doesn't have as much. There's still some. Again, it's not perfect, but it's definitely notably better than what I'm used to using other devices, and it's really, really welcome. I'm hoping Apple's new iPhone 17 lineup, which Apple says is less reflective than the ones that came before, is closer to this, because this is really, really nice. I also find myself really liking, and this is a controversial one, I think, but it is the back button. I really like the back button on Android, and this is one of the things that I feel like there's always controversy with people. iPhone users think the back button makes no sense, and then Android users, when they try an iPhone, they're like, how do I go back? Why is there no absolutely unified way to go back? And I understand both perspectives. I think the operating systems are built differently, so you couldn't just put Android's back gesture on iOS and have it work as well, but I really like it. The thing, I don't have to go all the way into it, but like the thing that I find really helpful, especially as someone who's using a big phone, right? The Ultra is a big phone. The fact that I can use the back gesture from either side, that's really helpful, right? On an iPhone, you have to go all the way to the left side and swipe. With Android, you can swipe from either side of the screen to go back, and that's really, really nice in my opinion. Also, when you're going from like one app to the other, like say you're in your email app and you open a link to your web browser, that's going to open another app. On the iPhone, you get this little piece of text here at the top right that says to go back to that other app. On Android, you just use the back gesture like you always do. It goes back to the app. It goes back to whatever you were looking at before. So it's really nice. It works quite well. I never find myself confused about it. This is a thing I find Apple fans like to say quite a bit, is it's so confusing, but like, maybe it is to you, but I don't find it confusing at all. I think it works great. But I also don't have a huge issue with how Apple handles back gestures either. So I think they're both fine, but I totally get why people really like the Android one. Then there's performance, and the performance on this thing is remarkable. It is great. I feel like sometimes in the Apple ecosystem we get caught up with thinking that our phone is so remarkably quicker than any Android phone, and there are some cases where the iPhone is definitely quicker, but in terms of benchmarks, it's trading blows. I think single core is a little lower than the latest iPhones. The multi-core is a little higher than the latest iPhones. This is, of course, before the iPhone 17 Pro comes out. And in day-to-day use, it is just as fast as the iPhone in the things that I do. I tried some higher-end tasks like editing and exporting photos in Lightroom, like playing some games like Diablo Immortal, and the settings are the same. The performance is great. Like, it does a really good job. Animations are silky smooth throughout. Samsung actually has some quicker animations by default that make things feel faster too, so that's pretty cool. And I would say it's definitely trading blows with what I would expect from a high-end iPhone, which is great. This video is not about the Pixel 10, but I also have the Pixel 10 for review, and this one has a Tensor core. This isn't the latest Snapdragon. It's Google's own thing, and it does very good at AI tasks, but its raw performance is not as good. And I know some people will say you can't notice that in day-to-day use. I will say I can absolutely notice it in day-to-day use. It does not perform as well, and you can feel the animation sluggishness in some cases. Some apps just don't work as performantly, and it's not bad by any means, but when you're coming from the high end, you can definitely feel the difference. So I do appreciate that the latest Samsung Ultra is really, 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 really fast. Okay, let's go quicker through some little ones. Next up, third-party keyboards actually feel well integrated into the system. I don't know what it is on iOS, but I can never use a third-party keyboard because they always feel worse in some way. On Android, there are options, and they feel just better integrated. I can't put my finger on why, but I think they're better integrated. Also, these keyboards let you put a number row on the top, which is really nice, especially on these big phones where you have tons of screen real estate. Let me put a number row up there. I'm using numbers all the time. I would like not to have to toggle over to a different view to do that, so I like that. Dictation. Don't even get me started on dictation. Apple does some cool stuff where you can kind of like leave dictation on and you can switch between dictation and typing and like go back and forth between the two. It does some cool stuff there, but maybe it's just how I speak, which I don't feel is crazy, but it doesn't understand my words. It doesn't understand punctuation. I just find it very, very frustrating. Like, it's to the point where I can't rely on it to dictate almost anything. Android has much better dictation using Google's kind of speech-to-text model, and it just works much, much nicer. I trust dictation much more on the Galaxy S25 Ultra than I do on my iPhone. It's a very little thing, but I like that I can remove the labels from apps on my home screen on the Samsung launcher without having to make the icons huge. On iOS, you can make the icons huge and have no labels, but if you want them to be normal sized, they must have labels. I don't understand why this is the limitation, but that's what it is. There's a couple cool features in the Play Store. So if you start to download an app in the Play Store, if it's a larger download, you can actually hit a toggle that says open this app once it's installed, which is kind of cool. So you can kind of start downloading it, start installing it, go off and do whatever else you want on your phone. And then whenever the app is ready, it'll go ahead and auto open for you. It also has the ability to show your other Android devices, and it lets you remotely install the app on those devices on demand if you want. I have had some issues with this not working and getting errors, but as soon as I unlock the other phone, it started to install. So I don't fully understand why that's not working. It could be a me thing. It could be a prominent thing that happens to everybody, but I like it in concept at least. I'd love to see it just work a little smoother. Going back to the keyboard, I also love that there is a dismiss keyboard button that's just kind of natively built into the system. I think that's really nice. On iOS, you kind of have to figure out, do I swipe down a little bit to dismiss it? Is there a UI element that does that? With Android, it's very predictable. There's a little caret just below the keyboard. You hit that at any point, it dismisses the keyboard. This is a cool one on Samsung devices specifically. There's a version of this on kind of Android in general, but on the Samsung devices, they have their own kind of special search for the settings, and you can just kind of search for whatever you're looking for. You don't have to do an exact text match, but you can find what setting you're looking for. Sometimes it'll even surface it in the search results, so you don't have to go to the page, but if you tap into it, you can go to that page, and it actually scrolls you to that point where that setting is, which is really nice. I know there's times where I'm searching for something on iOS, I figure out what page it's on, I go to that page, and there's like 40 settings, and I need to like find where it is on that page. I like this quite a bit. I'll touch on battery life really quickly. I do not do any sort of scientific testing on this, but I find the battery life on this to be quite excellent. Like I said, I've been using it for almost a month now, so I have a decent idea for how it goes past the first kind of week or so, where it's kind of getting things set up and I'm getting used to using it. It works great. It works kind of in line with what I would expect from a Pro Max iPhone. Then there's another controversial thing. Potentially, it's the S Pen. They have a stylus, everybody, as Steve Jobs said, or would have said, they blew it. I don't need the S Pen. I think it's kind of a nice little thing to have here and there. It can be nice when you're doing fine grain controls, such as when I'm editing a photo or when I'm selecting text. It's actually really good for selecting text because it gives you really good precision between letters. But I don't use it for much more than that, and I don't do that a ton. So I would say there are entire days that go by where I don't use the S Pen, but I do like having it as kind of like a fidget kind of thing. You can kind of push it in and out and have it click in and out, and that's satisfying. You can pull it out. There's a button on it that doesn't seem to really do anything. I'm sure it does something, but in this latest version, the S25 generation of the Ultra, they removed Bluetooth from this pen, so it used to be able to like be a remote shutter for your phone, so you could like set up the camera and walk away with the pen and then hit the button to take a picture. You can't do that anymore, unfortunately. So yeah, I wish that was still there because that would be cool, but the S Pen is fine, and I guess I would like more battery there, but since battery is already pretty excellent, I'm not super worried about it. I would say it's a neutral for me overall. Occasionally I like having it, but most of the time it's not a big deal. Last couple things on the photo side, there are quite a few cameras on the back of this thing, right? Quite a few little camera lenses. There's a 10x lens that does a 30x and 100x zoom. I would say the 100x zoom is a complete novelty that is completely useless. However, I have found a few situations where it is actually convenient to have an extreme zoom that lets me zoom in and see text or whatever, something like that. It's not great for photography. You're not going to get beautiful photos at 30x, but if you need to see something that's far away, it's actually really good for that. So I like having that extended zoom. I'm hoping I get something similar from the iPhone 17 Pro with its 4x 48 megapixel lens. It has a crop down to 8x, and then hopefully can go further than that. But like 30x, I have actually found a few cases where it has been useful, so I've liked having that. And then finally, there is split screen and just full-on windowing. So on this phone, I can go ahead and split the screen between two apps. I can go ahead and have an app just like as a free-floating window on the screen. I like having this. There are some app combos that work relatively well together. You can put like a mindless little game at the bottom while you have something above, like the YouTube app or a social media feed or something like that. So you can multitask there. Maybe that's not super healthy, but you can do that. And it's occasionally useful. Maybe I'm just not used to it, but I don't use it a ton. But there are some times where I've used it and have been basically like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Okay, so now we're laid back and we're talking about kind of just my opinion on this phone. I gotta say, I was not expecting to like this phone a lot. I think, like a lot of iPhone users, I'm stuck in my head. I have Samsung from 2013 as like what Samsung software is today. And like I said, I'm also reviewing the Pixel 10. So I have both of these phones. This one came in a couple days earlier and I was using it. I was liking it and whatever. But like, I was like, obviously when the Pixel 10 comes in, I'm a Pixel guy. I'm going to like the Pixel more. And it really surprised me that once the Pixel came in, I set it up, I got everything installed, like I mirrored my setup so it has the exact same setup, the same apps, the same, like everything is the same on my Galaxy and my Pixel. I just don't want to use the Pixel. And that's really weird to me as someone who sees themselves as an iPhone guy, but also a Pixel guy. Like if I had to switch for years now, I would have said, obviously I'd go with a Pixel. I've owned the Pixel 4, I owned the Pixel 6, the 7, and then I traded in my 7 to get the 10. So I keep up with the Pixel. I like to have those around to be able to install the new Android betas every spring. But yeah, the Galaxy S25 Ultra surprised me because I don't want to use the Pixel anymore. I think I need to have the Pixel in my life to just, again, to install those betas and make sure I have access to that so I can talk about it and speak intelligently about the different operating systems. But if I couldn't use an iPhone, I would 100, like if I could not use my iPhone anymore, I had to go Android, 100%. I'd use the Samsung Ultra. I just like it more. I don't know what it's just a bunch of little things. I like the speed of it. I like the design isn't 100% my taste. They kind of have these sharp corners, much like the iPhone 12, 13, 14 generations, where they had these really sharp corners on the Pro phones that were just not comfortable in the hand. So I don't like that, but the screen is just astoundingly good. Like, I know that was the first thing I brought up, but like the screen just looks really good. It has these tiny bezels on the sides. It's really, really sharp. The UI, like I said, is very, very quick, very responsive. The UI looks good. I've gotten a few comments since I've posted about using this phone, like, well, none of that matters because you have to use Samsung's terrible UI. And like, I can only imagine these come from people who have not used Samsung software in at least a decade, which is basically who I was. I'm really surprised. Like, this is... like, maybe you prefer iOS or maybe you prefer Google's skin of Android, but like, this isn't bad by any means. This is very good software with lots of options, lots of customization if you want that, but also the default experience is really good for a lot of people. And so, yeah, I find myself quite compelled to keep using this phone, which is not what I expected. I was genuinely not expecting to like Samsung stuff as much. And this isn't even on the latest version of Android yet. This is running Android 15, Samsung's One UI 7. Supposedly it's One UI 8, which is based on Android 16, which is the brand new version of Android, that is rolling out to Galaxy S25 devices as we speak, but it hasn't hit my phone yet. So I've tried to install it. I can't. I really like it. I do think the iPhone is better for me. I've tried very much not to use my iPhone for the last kind of month or so, except for iMessage, because people iMessage me still. And every time I use my iPhone, I do feel like there's a fluidity there. There's a quality of third-party app, especially, that really draws me in personally. But as I get used to the Android ecosystem again and kind of get used to what Samsung's doing with their software, I totally get why people would prefer this over the iPhone. Again, I don't think that's me, but I totally get it. Like, I don't think you're crazy if you like this. Yeah, so that's kind of where I am with this phone. I am using it until my new iPhone comes at the end of the week. I'm going to keep using this as my main daily driver. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I am really surprised by how much I like this phone as someone who's mocked Samsung in the past, who's considered themselves an iPhone guy, then a Pixel guy, and then a long list of other phones, and then a Samsung guy. 100%. This would be the Android phone I went if I had to go Android. So yeah, that's it for me today. Thank you for sticking around to the end. If you liked the video, drop a like down below, and I'll see you here next time. Bye-bye.